to the front so that we can have everybody in a good place to listen and participate. So once everyone's seated, we will get underway. Okay, thank you everyone for joining us today. This is the September membership meeting of the League of Women Voters of Clark County. We are part of the League of Women Voters of the United States with the always forefront commitment of empowering voters and saving democracy. Our theme today is all about voting and all about elections. It's obviously our season for all of that. And so we're going to be hearing some great information about current activities. And we have a guest speaker coming up about the new state positions from the League of Women Voters. And best of all, we're going to conclude the meeting with some breakout sessions where we're going to be asking the membership and everyone here for their ideas and priorities on how we carry forward. So with no further ado, I'm going to introduce Meg McNichols, who's, oh, excuse me, before that, Deanne, I think you have a guest you want to introduce.
My face this way or this way? Oh, okay. I'm Deanne Finken. I've been a member of the League for a long time, and I'm really pleased to introduce a guest. Well, she's not, are you a guest? Today she's a guest who's joining us and who's moving here from Spokane. Ann Murphy, would you stand? Ann Murphy is a legend in League history. I was kind of peppering her with questions this morning. She's been a member for about 45 years. Her mother was a longtime League member in Spokane and was president of the state board from 2015 to 19, during that period when the League got a big influx of new members. She said you had an action workshop 4 days after the 2016 election, and you can believe that that was quite a emotional time. Ann has also been a Spokane League president a number of times. She's just finished as on the nominating committee for the national. She's a lobby team member. Yeah, she's a go-to person, and she brings a great wealth of League commitment and dedication, and I'm real pleased she's here. So she's moved to the neighborhood.
Thank you. I should probably add in way of introductions, I'm Marlene Niemeyer. I'm a member of the board, and I'm chairing this meeting on behalf of Nancy Halverson, who is recovering from a vacation. So she had such a great vacation, she needs a couple days to recover. So we send her our thanks and best wishes. So now we're going to go to our nonpartisan, land acknowledgement statement with Meg McNichols. I guess Meg is not here, so we are going to go on to the nonpartisan statement. Ellie Hutton. I know I saw Ellie.
Hi, I'm Ellie Hutton, and today for the nonpartisan moment, what I'd like to speak about, sorry, my hair. There was an article in the Columbian yesterday in regard to the League's candidate forum being canceled for the 3rd Congressional District because only one candidate had committed to attend. And so the League, some of you may be familiar that the League has what's called an empty chair policy. And so if only one candidate is going to attend, we cancel the forum. And the purpose of the empty chair policy is related to a few different things, but as far as the nonpartisan, it is because the nonpartisan policy ever since the beginning of the League's organization, is that we do neither endorse nor oppose any candidate or political party. And so that's the purpose for doing that, because it seems unfair to the community that we don't get to hear from either of them, but the option to hold it with only one would appear to be possibly endorsing. There are other aspects of the reason, and there's just a recent article that was posted in the national website that's guidelines for state and local league debates, including empty chair debates and other non-debate candidate appearances. They've updated it quite a bit, and so I'm going to pass this along to Jane Johnson for the, as she's in charge of the moderators for all of the candidate forums for the upcoming general election. The other aspect of nonpartisan that I wanted to speak to is that we're going to talk about get out the vote here today. And as we all know, when we do get out the vote activities, encouraging people to register or to vote and tell them how, you know, they're going to get their ballots and keep them informed about that. It is a nonpartisan process. And so we don't speak about any of the candidates. If any person approaches anybody at a tabling event and were to ask about candidates and what do they think about the candidates, we just refer them to our candidate forums or other public information that is available about the candidates. So I just wanted to offer those as our nonpartisan policy update. Thank you.
Thank you, Ellie. It's now time to introduce our featured speaker, who will be joining us by Zoom. That is Martin Gibbons. He's the second vice president of the Seattle King County chapter at the moment. Okay, thank you. Thank you very much, and thanks again, Amy, for joining us. So he joined the League in 2017, and for the past 6 years has served on the League of Women Voters Washington lobby team, and as issue chair for the climate crisis and energy components. Previously, he was the chair for water issues. His other league service includes League of Women Voters US Climate Interest Group Renewable Energy Team Chair, among others. He was appointed by the League of Women Voters Washington to State Energy Strategy Advisory Committee in 2020. His previous volunteer roles have included treasurer, secretary, and president of Evergreen Soaring Flying Club, secretary and treasurer of the American Institute of Aeronautics and Astronautics Pacific Northwest. And on top of all that, he served as president of his homeowners association. I notice everyone gives that a high regard, and I think we can all join in on that. So he underlies all of this with 60 years of experience as an engineer in design, research, and development and management. He shares with us this quote: "I value the work of the League promoting voter education, citizen involvement in government, and careful study of the issues. The League's strength is based on the dedication of members to those values and commitment to carry on." So continuing with that, Marty is going to share with us his presentation. Welcome, Marty.
Thank you very much. And I trust that everybody can see the screen. I'm going to share my slides now. And I'm going to try to cover 3 of the initiatives today, 2 of them that I am dealing with directly, but one more that Cynthia Stewart, our revenue and housing issue chair, she's out of town, so can't be here. I can only speak to one of hers, so I apologize for that. Nevertheless, the first one up is Initiative 2117, and I'm going to give the League of Women Voters perspective on these. First, we recommend a vote against 2117. In fact, we recommend a vote against all the statewide initiatives on the ballot this November. And first, the 2117 is a repeal of the Climate Commitment Act, which was passed in 2021. And the Climate Commitment Act sets a price on carbon across the state for about 75% of our major emitters. And that is mostly the large emitters that it covers, emitting more than 25,000 metric tons of CO2 equivalent, carbon dioxide equivalent. So other gases are also greenhouse gases, and they are covered as well. And they have to purchase allowances to make those emissions. And those allowances are sold at auction 4 times a year. Other companies that are excluded right now are considered energy intensive and trade exposed entities that it was felt it would take some years for them to be able to participate in this market and to reduce their emissions because they're so energy intensive, and their products cross borders and would give them quite a decrement on ability to compete in the wider market. Those entities are awarded free allowances that, as I said, decline over time through about 2050. In some cases, the companies are allowed to purchase offsets to cover some of their emissions. Now, offsets are problematic. I don't have time to get into those problems right now, but that's another way they can deal with their emissions. We passed a bill last session, 2024, that starts the process of linking our markets for the allowances with California and Quebec. And that's not a sure thing yet. There's some pros and cons to that, but it's thought that that will stabilize the prices a little bit. But the prices seems to have stabilized. We've had, I think, 6 auctions so far since the inception of auctions in 2023. As I said, the allowances are sold at auctions 4 times a year, and the state retains the proceeds for those for investment. And I'll get into the investment in a minute. And those allowances decline over time. So the industry must reduce their greenhouse gases. And the reason the Climate Commitment Act was promoted in 2021 is it was felt it was the only way to force down our statewide emissions. And as fewer allowances are available, the allowance prices may go up unless they the entities reduce their emissions, and then that relieves them of the problem of buying the allowances, purchasing allowances. All that information is available in detail at the Department of Ecology's webpage. Now, the investments that stem from the Climate Commitment Act, the revenue investments are specified to increase energy efficiency, and that includes in houses and in small businesses, to reduce pollution of all kinds, and even to restore environmental damage in some areas that may have occurred over decades around the state. And a big part of this is to correct environmental injustice on overburdened communities that experience more pollution than some other areas. And even some of the investment is to repair and improve some of our transportation infrastructure. On the environmental justice side, that aspect is reviewed at least every 2 years to ensure that about 40% of all the investment is going to correcting environmental injustice around the state. It's a big bill. It was 83 pages long. It's very complex. And so, of course, we can't go into a lot of detail there, but you can read more about it at that link as well. I'll put some links in the chat if I'm able to at the end of my talk here. Now, the initiative 2117, it also acts like a bill. It looks like a bill. In fact, there's the top section of the submittal that was submitted in 2023. It acts just like a bill. It was sent to the legislature, so the legislature had to act on it or not act on it. But it prohibits the state agencies from imposing any kind of carbon tax or credit trading program. So it essentially cancels the Climate Commitment Act, essentially repeals the Climate Commitment Act. And by virtue of it being an initiative, it prevents the legislature from taking any similar action for at least 2 years. The result will be it will reduce state revenue by about almost $4 billion through 2029. And that revenue would have paid for what I talked about before. The legislature declined to act, which means they could have offered an alternative. So 2 initiatives would have appeared on the ballot, but they didn't take any action at all. So this, the initiative as written, appears on the November ballot. A lot of detailed background is available in Ballotpedia. And I can make these slides available for distribution at your league also. The initiative is 4 pages long, and there is a fiscal impact statement on how much the reduction in revenue will happen. So what happens if 2117 passes? The revenue will no longer be available to redress environmental injustice, reduce emissions, and a lot of that is from buildings. Improve transportation. It also will eliminate incentives for the biggest polluters to reduce their emissions. And ultimately, Washington can't achieve its legislated emission reduction limits going through 2020. And league positions that support our opposition to this initiative are that we support reducing greenhouse gases. We want to address long-term impacts. We support a carbon pricing system, regardless of what that responsible system might be. We are against, we are for reducing air pollution and to increase energy security and creating new jobs and to accelerate the transition to a cleaner, more efficient energy system. We also emphasize conserving energy and use efficient technologies and investing in renewable energy. All those are listed in detail in our position documents, Program in Action and Impact on Issues. The legislature has been acting on reducing our impact to climate over the last 5 years with these primary bills. There are a lot more too, but these are the primary ones. In the Cap and Invest program, Climate Commitment Act, was passed in 2021, but it really came into effect in 2023 when it started having an effect. But this black line here, well, let's see, start over here. We've our emissions overall, the whole state, have danced around about 100 million metric tons over the last several decades. And by legislation, we are to reduce that impact, those releases, down to 95% below the 1990 level by 2050. It's a very aggressive and challenging line. So all these bills were necessary to achieve that. And how we could make that reduction by 2030 is largely in the bills that have been passed in the last 4 years. Including the Clean Energy Transformation Act, which is to get carbon releases out of our electrical supply across the state, a clean fuel standard, hydrofluorocarbon reductions, which are in our refrigeration systems. But the biggest section, the biggest change was the Climate Commitment Act, which achieved about half of the reduction we're going to need just to get to 2030. And that would continue to work to push down to 2050. But if we lose the Climate Commitment Act, we really have little hope of achieving our goal of 2030. And carrying on, we'll have to invent something to take its place. And that will take time, it will take effort. So the funds from the Climate Commitment Act go to clean transportation, as I said, more EV charging stations. They've already ordered some electrified ferries that would have to be canceled, and safe bike routes to schools. And it also funds, as I said, clean buildings, clean energy development, sequestration projects, and a big chunk is the environmental justice corrections. Projects are occurring all over the state, and this is a map showing them. Of course, I don't have time to get into detail, but this link sends you to more information on what those projects are right now, and it's probably been updated since I put this chart in. So if you're really interested, you can dive deeply into there. Here's some more detail. I'm not going to go into a lot of detail here, but there are a lot of projects that are started, not finished necessarily yet, but using the money that we've already collected from the Climate Commitment Act revenue of about over $1 billion so far with the auctions of the allowances. And a more complete article on that is in that link below. Now, the big objection to the Climate Commitment Act is it has increased gasoline prices. That may be true, but perhaps not as much as is being claimed. Petroleum is a global commodity, as everybody knows, so it is subject to the vagaries of the global marketplace. Washington has a gasoline tax as well, and it's about 45 cents a gallon right now. It's collected and paid by the fuel distributors, so it's paid at the point of buying your gasoline, and it helps maintain our transportation system. The CCA allowances for the emitters are a cost of doing business, like so many of their costs, but they pay the fee. Emitting industries choose how to cover those costs for themselves. They can reduce their emissions. They can charge their customers all or part of that additional cost. They can cover it with their profits to reduce their tax burden if they choose. But gasoline is a commodity and priced on what the market will bear. There's a long article on that here if you want to dig into the details, but I've already dug into them a bit. Now I'm going to skip over this one because I've got a better one here, I think here. So this is analysis I recently did on gasoline prices, and a zero baseline is where we've been for the last several years. An average change goes up and down over a baseline of zero, but then in 2022 it spiked up quite a bit. So that was a 60 cent increase over the average price of a gallon of gas. Then it falls back down. It's gotten very unstable lately, but the first allowance auction occurred about in this period, and the gas price increased. Maybe that was the cause of it. Maybe it was other factors, but then it started dropping down again. The last allowance auction was in June, and the change from the average price is now a little bit less, about 20 cents, maybe more than the previous average price for gas. And so the opponents of this Climate Commitment Act are claiming anywhere from 50 cents to $1 more in gasoline prices. I think it's more like 20 cents now that the allowance prices have stabilized. The allowances were almost $50 in the first auction in January of 23, and recently they were less than $30. So you can see the prices have stabilized on the allowances. So we say retain the Climate Commitment Act. We've delayed too long to address our climate crisis. We can't move fast enough now because we've delayed too long to reduce our emissions. It's going to be harder now. We can't backtrack. We have to think of 7 generations hence what life will be like for them, what life in Washington and the globe will be like. We have to take action. So what I'd like you to take away from this summary is the Climate Commitment Act is a price on carbon, and it incentivizes big polluters to reduce their emissions. We invest the revenue from those allowance auctions to increase our energy efficiency around the state and correct environmental damage, including damage that humans are feeling, and to reduce pollution from fossil fuels in general. Fossil fuel pollution harms children the most, whether they're in school or in a house that has leakage of methane or other pollution from burning fossil fuels. These are the reasons the League opposes repeal and therefore opposes the initiative. So there recently, the League took on another initiative that came a little later, 2066, and it is a repeal of a clean energy transition bill that just passed in 2024. And that is Bill HB 1589, and it's for a transition to clean, affordable, and reliable energy future. It applies only to Puget Sound Energy, being the biggest energy utility in the state. It's a planning bill, and it specifies that PSC must plan for an eventual transition away from supplying natural gas. It consolidates and clarifies several planning processes required by the Utilities and Transportation Commission. So it makes things a little easier on Puget Sound Energy. Therefore, they supported 1589. It does not ban natural gas service to existing or future buildings. That is the formulation that the initiative backers have stated, but it does not do that. It supports a transition to electric, and transitioning to electric reduces the need for future decades for future extraction of natural gas. We don't have any virtually natural gas extraction in Washington, but our neighboring states do, and we buy a lot of it from British Columbia. It avoids decades of methane leakage in buildings if we transition, and in supply pipelines, and in drilling for natural gas. It avoids the future cost of retrofitting if we put natural gas service in for heating in buildings, and eventually we have to transition away from methane. That retrofitting will be costly as well. PSC, as I said, supports the bill because it has benefits to them. And it's a step to reducing Washington State's overall emissions per the legislation in that chart I showed you. We're trying to drive it down to almost zero by 2050. More detail in HB 1589 is available here, and the Puget Sound Energy Perspective are links to those as well if you want to dive deep. We advocated for 1589, and it was in both 2023 and 2024, and it blocks the state. Well, in addition to canceling, repealing 1589, 2066 has some additional problems. It blocks state and local governments from regulating access to natural gas service. So if a city or a county wanted to put some regulations on natural gas, they could not do that if I-2066 passes. So it constrains what they're able to do. It prohibits the State Building Code Council from also limiting any kind of natural gas usage. And it discourages incentives to transition away from natural gas to electrical energy in buildings. More reasons why the League opposes this initiative. And Ballotpedia, once again, has a lot more detail on 2066. We supported HB 5989 because methane is a significant source of pollution in both in buildings and homes. It's a poison. Burning creates more particulates and nitric oxides, NO2, for instance, and such pollutants affect children the most. So I think the evidence is clear. If we get natural gas service out of homes, out of buildings, we will be healthier. Methane is also a powerful greenhouse gas. It is far more powerful than carbon dioxide. However, it breaks down over 80 years to result in carbon dioxide alone. But while it's in the atmosphere as a gas, it's about 80 to 20 times, depending on how long it's been there, more powerful than carbon dioxide. Its fuel extraction is a source of leakage, including service lines and electrification. The current heating and cooking technology is capable and in many ways superior to natural gas. For instance, a modern heat pump system uses less energy than the energy in methane and can provide cooling. The program in action, the positions we use to support 1589, state policy to maintain human health and safety and preserve the environment. And when energy sources are chosen, efficiency should be one of the selection criteria. We have more webinars on this initiative. That's the one today. King County's having one on the September 17th in the evening. Everyone is welcome. And then there are two more sponsored by the lobby team, September 26th and 28th. And all the initiatives, all four, will be covered in that. And so I also have some references. I'll put some of these in the chat after I talk here. So the best time to plant a tree is 50 years ago. The next best time is today. We've delayed too long. So what I'm going to do now is switch to, those are the two initiatives I've been working on. I'm going to do a, where is it? It's over here. This is some slides prepared by Cynthia Stewart, our revenue issue chair, on the capital gains tax and on I-2109 that is going to repeal the capital, or intends to repeal the capital gains tax. So
Marty?
I'm not, yes.
Excuse me, you've given us some great substance here, and before we go to that, I think we have time for one or two comments.
Okay, that would be great. I'd love to entertain questions. Here, I'll stop the share.
Hi, Marty, Deanne Finken. You talked about $4 billion annual, is that annually?
No. That's what's estimated through 2029. Now it'll carry on through 2050, but
So
at
we're-
lower rates because there are going to be fewer allowances available to auction. Now the auction price may go up, and it depends on how well the industries reduce their emissions over that time. So it's dependent on how well the Climate Commitment Act actually achieves its objective of driving down emissions. If we drive down emissions, we won't have as much revenue, but we will have fewer emissions.
I
So
wonder if you could tell us what the polls are saying about the race or the likely results.
yeah,
My
what
last
I
question
heard
is-
in the last few days is the 2117, it looks like the balance of opinion, public opinion on the poll is against 2117. For 2066, it looks like the balance of opinion, public opinion, is for 2066. So I urge you all to talk on your social media, talk to your family and friends, and say why we need to keep or vote against 2066 and keep our policy to continue to electrify our energy sources in Washington State.
And we can do this because although the league is nonpartisan and does not endorse political candidates or
That's right.
parties, we can do this because we've done extensive study, right?
Yes. The board of directors for the state approved our opposition to all these initiatives now. And so all members are free to communicate with certainly with their neighbors. In this case, there's no use in communicating with their legislators. It's to get people to vote against these initiatives. And usually a league member holds a lot of confidence with their family and friends they know what's going on. So that's our power right now.
So one more thing real quick, and this is really for the people here in the room. I know I've already looked at all these initiatives on the league's website. They're there. I'm wondering if we can commission somebody like Deanne to write for Nancy and write something in for the Columbian.
Yes, and in fact, if you if you send me a message, we have a small team working on primarily now social media posts and also articles for our state league newsletters, the Voter and In League. And so you should be seeing some more articles over the next weeks on those. But that team does have some model letters to the editor and op-eds and such that we can send you, make available to you to use to send in from your league, as long as you know the Clark County League approves sending it and has the proper person sign it. Does that sound like what you needed?
Yes. Are there any
Yeah,
other questions or
yes.
comments? Or are we ready to move on to the next components?
Thank you, Martin.
Thank you.
Thank you. I think we're ready for the next step.
Okay, I'll find it again. Okay, the capital gains tax, well, let's see, it's very complicated. It's a tax primarily on wealthy people that are cashing in capital gains, and the first $500 million shall be deposited in education legacy trust. So a lot of this money is going to fund our schools, and then part of it also the common school construction account. And there are provisions how that's adjusted. The funds collected in 2023, almost $1 billion, well, $750 million, and almost halfway through, nearly $500 million, and 3,000 of the individuals in the state paid into this. And I don't know the breakdown of how much each paid, but for instance, where's the money going? The 386 million for childcare and early learning. Here are some of the details. Well, I guess this shows the first part of it, 21 to 23, not so much applied, but 23 to 25, 386 million, and going to these areas. And a lot of this is school construction projects, 500 million per year from this tax. And here are the projects going on right now in the state. So far, 75% of those are going outside King County, if that's worth something. 35 programs down in the Southwest region where Clark County is. And so there's a lot of money being invested around the state for the school construction projects. I assume it's they're fixing problems that have been lingering due to, as you probably know, our spending on schools is not up to where it's supposed to be, I think, by legal requirement. And so it's important, this tax is important to achieve that. Repeal would cut funding for childcare and early learning and school construction. The state would have to return to other sources of funding to get these investments to where they're legally required. And it removes a slight improvement in our tax structure, which, as we know, is regressive in Washington due to the lack of income tax and other things other policies to try to correct that, or to try to get enough revenue. And then it reduces an economic multiplier effect. In other words, estimates from a REMI model could result in 10,000 jobs lost and almost $1 billion in reduced GDP for the state, and a total of over $1 billion in personal income lost. And so the Washington League has voted to oppose 2109, and so vote against it, retain the capital gains tax, don't repeal it, and to retain the funding on early learning, and require the most wealthy in the state to pay a fair share of their the tax burden, or move towards that direction anyway, and continue to fund school budgets, for which we're required to do. And it's an excise tax, not an income tax, legally speaking. And most Washington taxpayers don't pay this, only 0.2% do. I think this is also what I heard was positively seen in the latest poll. I'm sorry, repeal or voting no was the prevailing opinion, I think, in the last poll I saw. I pay less attention to this one, and unfortunately, I don't have slides on the other initiative dealing with the repeal of the long-term care requirement, which is to take a fee from workers to fund their long-term care after if should they need it, and have a source of funding for that, because most people do not have private insurance that covers that and have to rely on Medicaid and reduce their financial resources to get that. So and I think that sounds like it was also the prevailing opinion of the polled people, the surveyed people, was that they would vote for repeal of that. I think largely based on, it sounds like a mandate, a requirement that rather than something that they decided to do. But so I'm sorry I can't answer more questions on those two initiatives. But you can come to the other webinars we have on these initiatives and hear Cynthia Stewart go into more detail about those.
Thank you, Marty. And before we let you go, let me just see if there are any final comments or questions from the floor.
I forget who asked me this morning or mentioned to me this morning that the city of Vancouver has taken positions on these initiatives. Oh, thank you.
Marty, this is Ann. Hi.
Hi.
What's the number of the last initiative that you spoke about?
Oh, let me find it here. Why can't I find it? Here we go. Let's see. It is 2124, allows employees and self-employed people to opt out of Washington's long-term care insurance program. And so the feeling is, if a lot of people opt out of it, it won't be it won't do its job as an insurance. You know, it'll be not enough base to be an effective insurance program. So that's 2124. So I will put
I have a question on that.
okay, sure.
So as I recall, when they were promoting that, they talked about approximately 30K for a person that would be able to access that. And I'm concerned that that's a false hope. I had a husband that had Parkinson's, and 30K doesn't even begin to support someone on that.
Yeah, I guess I heard it could cover maybe 59 days in a nursing home, which for a lot of people wouldn't be enough. For some it would. I think I don't know what Cynthia would say about whether that's a start and we need to do better, or how that fits into the Medicaid option or private insurance. My private insurance has a 180-day exclusion period, so we're on our own for that amount of time, and then it's good for 4 years, but we pay a lot of money for that.
Okay, I think if we have no further questions on the floor, let's thank Marty for being with us today. I'll
put some links in the chat, and I don't know if that not not many of you will have access to the chat, I guess, but maybe somebody can use those in the meeting notes.
Okay, we'll make sure to do that. Thanks again. Okay, and carrying on with that theme, Jackie Lane is going to share with us some of the local initiatives, including City of Vancouver.
Not including the city of Vancouver. They have 6, so that's worth looking at, but I'm just doing the county has submitted 3 charter amendments. And let's see, here we go. Oops.
We'll just go to the beginning of it.
Okay, next slide.
We'll get one. There we go.
So they've proposed 3 charter amendments. They had, it requires 4 of the 5 councilors to agree to put something on the ballot from the council. The next charter commission, this is just an FYI, will be elected next year for ballot initiatives if they decide to do any changes in 2026. So we're not that far from the next cycle of the charter commission. The council did discuss some other changes, but there weren't enough support to move forward with those. So they just have these 3. Next. So the first one is the sheriff's salary. And the problem is the charter caps salary increases for all the electeds, and it's tagged to the legislature raises. And the sheriff's salary is not competitive. So, they've done a review and increases for all the rest of the staff in the sheriff's department, but not the sheriff. And so this kind of catches that up to more norm, and it keeps it at 8% over the highest step of the under sheriff salary range. So the sheriff makes at least as much as the people who work for him. My personal opinion is this one makes a lot of sense, having listened to a lot of the discussion at the county meetings. And at the end of this, I have which meetings they talked about these things for, so anybody wants to go back and listen to those. Next. Redistricting process. So Kinsey originally proposed this, and then it was modified by one of the councilors. The intent was to address some of the challenges that happened with our last redistricting. I don't know if any of you remember, but eventually the commission couldn't agree, and what happened is, I think there was some different readings of what the law and what the charter required for redistricting. Ended up going to the council, and the final map wasn't finalized until like the week before filing week. So, for example, Sue Marshall did not know what district she was going to be in to run until right before it was time to file for office. So Kinsey's changes address that and address some of the timelines, so the information, the redistricting would be done more in advance of filing week. The changes that Gary did, it was Gary who proposed them, increased the number of committee members from 5 to 7. And I think he did that to fix one of the problems from last time around, but Kinsey had already fixed that problem, so I'm not sure what that accomplishes at this point. And then today, the process is each party gives the council a list of 5 people they would like to see on the redistricting, and the council picks 2 from each, and then those 4 pick a 5th as a chair. The proposal is to make that nonpartisan and have the council pick 6, and then those 6 would pick the chair. If it sounds good, I'm not sure how I feel about having the council pick those people completely.
Does it just perpetuate their
yeah, having watched how they dealt with redistricting the last time, I'm not sure personally I would trust them to pick 6 nonpartisan people. Hi, Janet.
So I served on the redistricting committee and it was pretty bad. The problem here with doing this amendment today or this election cycle is who gets elected. There's two positions open of two people who have run as Republicans in the past before this was made a nonpartisan county council. And with those two people's position up for grabs, a lot depends on who's elected. So if certain people are elected, then this process of making the council pick would make it similar to how the Vancouver City Council picked the people on the Charter Review Commission, which I also served on. So part of me thinks, why don't we wait? Let's turn it down, see who's on the council, and then decide whether we want them to appoint them or not. Because we're not going to have a redistricting committee till the next census.
These are gonna be on the ballot, correct?
It was interesting. I did talk to Kimsey about this, and his take was, well, you guys elected that county council, so you get what you get. I was thrilled with that answer. Anyway, so this one, you know, there is also a charter commission next year, so that we could punt this to them to kind of figure out how that should happen and would be done well in advance of the next redistricting. So that's that one. Next, number 18. So this has to do with initiatives and referendum. It has ticked off some people who do frequent initiatives, but it requires a budget statement to be included on the petition and on the ballot. So if it's going to increase costs, the voters and the petition signers would know that. It also requires a prosecuting attorney's opinion on the legality of the initiative, instead of waiting until after it passes and going to court and then finding out you can't do that. And that would again go on the petition and on the ballot. It should pass. And then the signature requirements for petitions only affecting unincorporated would be the same as for all. So it kind of increases the signatures required for say you had an initiative to allow fireworks, that would be only unincorporated, right? The signatures required would be higher than they are today. I don't know about the third bullet, but the first two make a lot of sense. There's some things that people wanted to do about how elections are done that would have been differently perceived, I think, had this information been on that ballot or initiative. Anyway, so those are the three charter amendments. They're going to be on your ballot this year. Next. Okay, so and I don't know if we can get people a copy of this or not, but on the elections page, the language for the initiatives is out there. And the public hearings for this were on June 25th. So if you want to go back and see what some of the testimony and the conversation was around that. And there were also a couple other prior meetings where these were discussed. So questions? Thank you.
Thank you. In keeping with the redistricting theme, Irene Finley has asked for a couple minutes on the agenda before she jumps on an airplane.
Irene Finley. I attend the state redistricting task force meetings, and I offered to float the survey, the one question survey for redistricting reform. So today I brought paper copies, and I have a ballot box in back. For those of you who did not already vote online, now's your opportunity. It doesn't matter if you feel like you don't know anything. That informs us just as much as what people who know a lot. So put your ballot in the box when you leave, and there's a stack of materials from the redistricting task force back there. Take some and learn more. And I want to thank the communications team for putting together the survey. It was, they're really good. That's all. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Irene, and the communications team. Next on our agenda is Judy Stanton's going to give us an update on the CD3 debate. At least that's what my agenda says. Oh.
Jane Johnson, standing in for Judy today. Judy and Nancy co-chaired the Congressional District 3, and a number of us helped serve on that committee. We started this process in the end of June. We sent invitations out to both parties. The Perez campaign got back to us within a week and confirmed their attendance. We sent 5 follow-up reminders to the Kent campaign asking for their participation. We were informed on Thursday, Sally, that they were not going to participate, that they had another of other commitments, and so they declined our invitation. We are, of course, disappointed, as we've done this in the past. We are particularly disappointed for our students at Clark College and our students at WSU, who have been very supportive, and we're really excited about this opportunity. So that's it. Questions? Jackie?
What other races are we not in that board for?
You know, I'm going to turn that over to Melanie. Melanie chairs our local forums committee, and I think she's pretty quickly here. So Melanie, I'll let you handle that one.
Melanie, we can just go into your next, since it says to keep a flow going here.
I'm Melanie Hanshaw. Okay, great. Oh, now I'm on TV. Hey, everybody. All right. Well, I'm the chair of the Candidate Forums Committee, and this is everything but the LD 3rd District. So this is all of the positions, races within the county. So first, I'd like to thank Teresa Torres and Sharon Brown. They're the 2 volunteers who did the phone calling to candidates. So over the last 4 weeks, we've been contacting candidates to check their availability. I've been working with CVTV for their availability and putting it all together. So this week it all came together. We will have 4 different forum events this year. The first one is on Monday, September 30th. These are now listed on our website. Do you have our basic league website homepage? Could you get to that?
I can if you
John,
give
if
me
you
a
can,
minute.
I'll guide you to the right page and we can show everyone. So Monday, September 30th and Tuesday, October 1st, back-to-back nights. Those will both be at the Clark Cowlitz Fire Rescue Building, which is up at Dollar's Corner, just west of the city limits of Battleground. It's a firehouse that has a nice training room, and we've had events there before. So those 2 evenings. The 3rd forum is October 5th, and for that we were able to secure the Camas Library, which usually has very short availability or lack of availability. So we got on that real early during the primaries, picked October 5th, got on the library calendar for Camas, and so we're excited about that. That will be in the afternoon, Saturday, October 5th, from 2 to 4. The others are in the evening at 6:30.
Melanie. I've got it up. If you
Hey, all right. So go to voter information along the top bar there and candidate forums. Yeah, so this is on the public website, so everybody should be able to get to this even without signing in. And then the forums are listed there, date and time and place. We've had, well, might as well talk about the changes now. We've had one change. The District 18 position 1, the candidates informed me that they had, one of them had an event come up, and although they had said they'd be available, couldn't be. So I've arranged, since they contacted me right away, to move that District 18 position 1 to the Camas Library October 5th. So it won't be, we try to make them geographically similar so we can get the people out live to the events. So that one's going to be a little bit of an oddball to have an 18th district North race down in Camas, but they are recorded on CVTV, and so it's still very valuable to have this, and then folks who didn't want to drive to Camas can watch it. So that's one change. The other, to answer the question about are there any races that we can't have? The District 17, Legislative District 17 Senate race. That's the race that will be in Camas. And unfortunately, even though we sent that save the date really early, and folks said they were available, candidate Paul Harris has had a trip come up. I don't know what it is. He just said, I got a note from his campaign person saying, wanted to let you know he'll be out of town the 4th through the 9th, and it's on the 5th. So that was very disappointing. And I worked with him and his opponent, who I'm going blank on the brand. Marla Keeler. I worked with both of them this week to try to bounce around to a different date. And unfortunately, candidate Keeler is out of town until the 30th. So their schedules are just doing this. And October 1st, they are both at a forum in Stevenson that the Skamania County Chamber is hosting. So that was a conflict for the 1st. So it was very unfortunate that candidate Harris couldn't save that date for us. Yes.
Just a quick correction. Her last name is
Keithler. Okay, there's a TH in there. Keithler. Thank you very much. I have so many names, and I'm always just looking at my spreadsheet, so I apologize for not personally knowing every name of the 23 or 24 candidates. Yeah. All right. So there's one change to this. We'll change it. We haven't set the press release out. One of the 18th district will move to be grouped with the 17th. Where am I? Dates, CBTV, everything's lined up. We're on the website. Volunteers. So I have created a very simple sheet here. And then if you've volunteered with forums before, then you know me well, and you will hear from me again. So we have volunteers for setup. We have as many greeters as I can get. We'd love to have that nonpartisan presence from league members. And then Jane Johnson is coordinating the moderators this year. It's been, so thank you for allowing me to delegate that. She's also our trainer for moderators, if anybody's interested in the future for doing this work. We have training available. Any questions? we've got this routine down pretty well, and it's something that the community really appreciates. So thanks to all the volunteers, and I'll have this sign-up sheet.
Thank you, Melanie. Next is Edwy Geiger, and she's going to be talking with us, giving us a recap of the primary election. Well, hi. You all know that we ended up having another race right after the major election, and that was, of course, for the Commissioner of Public Lands. And it was a very close race. Total statewide was 1.9 million ballots, and there were 51 ballots that were the difference between the two candidates. And so by an RCW, if it's 1,000 points or less, you go to a recount. And it's not just a recount for those two candidates, it's a recount for the entire candidates for that position. And so we had 26 league members that observed this. And as some of you may know, the League of Observers, after they observe, they fill out they fill out a observer form to let me know what had happened. And there's some of this stuff is just basically, did you talk to one of the supervisors or whatever? But what did you learn? Did you have any questions? Is there a need of a follow-up? And almost the majority of them all said it was a fabulous way of observing, and they got a chance to see things up close of what was happening. For those of you who wonder what happened to the ballots afterwards, our ballots, we ended up having to put them, the elections had to put them back into precincts and into the ballot boxes and secure the ballot boxes. So after all of that, I remained and I signed every box to make certain that those ballots were the ones that were supposed to be in each box, and it concurred with the number of the lock. So I went through that process so we can say that those ballots are very, very secure. Some of the things that we do that many of you may not know we know. It was very interesting in Clark County, and after the whole recount, and those of you who want to know more about it, ask someone that observed it, because it was very interesting. They put it into precincts, but they first started, your precinct has 3 numbers. So they would start in the hundreds, and then they would do the tens and the singles. And that took 2 days. And then after that, they were actually counting all the votes for that position. Just think, if we had to do that all the time, and those that observed noticed that there were some errors, of course, easily caught by people sorting them out. And so when someone tells you that the safety is really in having people tabulate the votes, just remember that example, which is very clear of what can and cannot happen. Also, you probably noticed in your ballot that your envelope, when it came in the ballot, looked a little bit different. And so they're using a new vendor, and the vendor, and then on the ballot, it gives a lot more information on the envelope that stays sealed until your signature is verified. So for those of you who don't know, it goes through a scanner, and the first scan is to be able to scan your signature. And then that goes and is verified by the signature verifiers who are trained. And then after that, and they agree, then it's scanned again. And when it's scanned again, the ballot, the envelope is slid open and it goes into the precincts. And then from there, it's carried into where real people take those ballots and see and pull out the ballot after they have moved the envelope away. The envelope goes away, there is no connection. Some of you may have noticed that there is a number on both the envelope and the ballot. If you were very good and carefully looking at it, you would notice the numbers are not the same. So the number on the envelope identifies it's you, the voter, but the number on the ballot identifies that as being the only ballot that has that number.
So that number is not given to any other ballot. So anyway, and then they check to see whether or not there's been any problems with the ballot, like somebody voted for 2 instead of 1, or they didn't use, what is the ink that you're supposed to use?
Black.
Black and dark blue, right. You wouldn't, you'd be not surprised, a lot of my observers will note that some people don't follow through with that. And so, of course, that has to be then checked and goes through resolutions. It's new, you'll still get your vote, but it will have to be done by a person and 2 persons that are working on it. Anyway, so there's a lot of checks and balances through that, and it's really important to know. Let me see what I had else in here. There is a suit, some of you may have read, that the Washington State Republican Party has sued, saying that in King County, they used a company that they shouldn't have used. It caused problems with those over 2,000 ballots, 2,092 actually. And the company is verified, it is used for everything, and it doesn't change any votes. What it allows for is a person wants to, it's, you know, you've heard about curing signatures. Curing a signature is it some that you've used. You may have had an accident like I did, except I didn't do it on my writing hand. And so maybe my writing is not different. So that might be an issue. You might be getting older. You may be getting disabled. You may be a young person who does all kinds of stuff with your signature. I mean, our observers will note that there are signatures. I see someone laughing. There are even designs, not names on that one. And so to be curing it, the voter gets an opportunity to be able to provide their signature and identification with that. And that goes through this company that's used in multiple states on that, but it still has to have the signature, and it still has to go through the county system. So that suit is going to go nowhere, but it just shows the concern because they really did not want Dave Updegrove to be the second place in that ballot, on that election on the Commissioner of Public Lands. Let me see, I just was looking at notes, so let me just see something else. Hold on. Those of you who say, gee, maybe I would like to be an observer, how do I do that? Well, up to this time, for the last probably 7 years, there was a system where you had X amount of time to pull up the information on the website, the Clark County Elections website, and then fulfill that. And then we said, watching the supervisor take new people through all the time, constantly, said you have to have a better way. So they then instituted, for those that are new, know that you had to take a tour led by one of the supervisors or maybe Greg. So this year coming up, Kathy Garber, who has been a supervisor, is retiring. She's yes, I know, sad, but she's looking forward to it. And so she's staying through this election, which is very important. And then her last time will be the very beginning of January. Rich Cooper, so those of you who are observers, will be take her place. And he has decided to have a different way of doing it. So he heard that there were some people that still had problems with just 1 month of a year doing it. So there's going to be 3 different times for people to apply. And for those who are interested, one is going to be January 21st, another will be in June the 27th, and another September 16th. Those who do the January 21st will be able to observe the first elections in that year, which will be in February. So what he's going to have is a presentation. So you're not going to be able to do this online anymore. You will go for about a 90-minute presentation with questions, answers, and then he's touring those people through it. So I said, oh, because he's only allowing 30 at a time. I said, well, there are some, the parties have a lot more people. We don't, but I have to say, this is, we show up more often. And those that are observers can say they have observed and they have been the only ones. Yeah, you're shaking your head, yes, on that one.
So they agreed that they would save ones, so there would be some spaces for us as well. So they would make certain that a certain percentage would be allotted for each group, and then it could be adjusted as needed on that one. So you still can do it. So if you're thinking of doing it, go talk to an observer, one of our observers, and ask, what is it like? Why do you do it? And what do you get out of it? And what do you think you do for our election process? You already talked about the ballots they're going to be on. It's going to be a very big ballot. In fact, they are going to be able to have one ballot, front and back, but it was close, whether or not they could get into it. Does anybody have any questions? Okay, why, yes.
So I went through the training for observers.
You're still an observer.
Would it be like going through that again?
If you haven't observed in several years, so I keep track of everybody observing. So, and I'm not saying that's good or bad, but yes, I think it would, because even the sign-in is different. Those are now that observed just this year. You're shaking your head, Preston, right? And this is a really interesting sign-in. We don't have to wear our badges anymore. And some of you may remember that there was a problem with the lanyards that one of the parties was using. And they were using it because one of their members was doing things that an observer should not do. And he was told about it, and he continued to do it, basically being too close, bothering the people that were working. So he was told that he can never observe again, because he had been warned. And so the lanyards they wore was reminding of this person. And the league members were quite upset about it. So I talked to, again, this is part of your observer report. It doesn't just sit with me. I will follow up on any issues you have, and I will let you know about it. So anyway, what they do now is that you will go through a machine, and the first time you observe, it will take your picture. And I have given a list to the supervisor, Kathy, right now, of who are the league observers. And so it has on there, Democratic, Republican, League of Women Voters, and Visitor. And so when you first go on there, you identify yourself as being a league member. And there are some of you who are party and league. And so I have let the the supervisor know that you are one of us as well as being a party one. So you could still pick either one of whenever you're doing. And it takes your picture, and that picture stays with you forever, even though it doesn't. And then you will go through this process of vowing that you will follow these regulations and things like that, and you will sign it. And then the lanyards will hold this. And so you will have 2 passes, which is something we asked for. So the one pass has your picture on it, whether you have your hair is still long or short, it's going to be that original picture. And also another one will have a code. And the code is allowing you to get in and out of the building, because we were also the ones that said people can't be on their cell phones. And we got that rule passed because shaking your head, we saw people picking up their cell phones and taking pictures or using them to pass information on. So anyway, if you can't use your cell phone or you want to talk to someone, you can go out in the area that is public and do that. Right now, the restrooms are in the public area, though there's a code to get in. So as an observer, you can go out the locked door, but do not have to go through a process to basically let's have someone let in, because the badge you're wearing will let you in. And then at the end of the day, or the end of your observer time, you would check out and then deposit all of that down. We wear a purple lanyard. So we match our name tags. And so you don't have to worry about that. And the Republicans, of course, are red, and the Democrats are blue, are those. And then
It also lets us know who we can talk to and who we can't. So the black lanyards are the ones that we have any questions. Those would be the ones that we would go to ask questions. No one is to bother the people that work in elections. And remember, I told you the gentleman that didn't seem to get that message. And so he's no longer observing. Any questions? Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Adri. And thank you all to all of our observers. I got to do that for the first time this election, and it is very exciting and humbling and inspiring. And there was a comment earlier that league members have some credibility with their neighbors, and so people are aware that I'm a member of the league, and they did have questions, and just basically I just said, hey, I was an observer, and it was very enlightening, and we have a lot of reasons to have confidence in our electors. So next we have Tracy Bradley Kelly, and it's time for some fun at First Friday at the museum.
So I got lots of fun to tell everybody about. One fun thing that I want to mention, many of you are going to the museum's fundraiser. That museum fundraiser is celebrating the 60th anniversary of the museum, and you are to come in costume. Now, by the way, who was I in the 60s? I was a hippie, and so you got to go and see what I'm going to be wearing, and we'll see what you're going to be wearing, and it has to do something with your memory and a great costume to wear over the last 60 years, right? So that gives you several different things to do. Okay, so we are going to do another fun night at the museum. That is on a First Friday. Now, one of the things, many of our members are over at the Peace and Justice Fair. Our festivals during the summer are for families. First Friday is a young adult time and a date night kind of time, right? It's not a family time, but it's a time where there are certain people walking up and down the street who may not be our targeted voters. So we want to have a lot of fun, and I want you to invite people to come. What we're going to do is quite a bit like we did last year. We're going to have a celebration of voting. And when we do this celebration of voting, we're going to take over a number of areas at the museum, and I am looking for volunteers. Sally Hale has a sign-up sheet over there, and I really love it. Look at how many people have already signed up, but more because it's a high intensity event. We're going to have 5 stations. We'll have a welcome station. We're going to have a spin the wheel trivia. Now, some of you may have taken the superhero quiz that our fantastic Brenda has been putting together some fine things. When you can take that superhero quiz and you can find out a lot about your persona of what kind of voter you are and what issues you want to know. Now, there's another thing going on, John, the Bears. So John's about to tell us about one fun thing. Another fun thing that we're going to do. Now, I need somebody, a volunteer who maybe is good at math, because this game. So I bought this as a team game. It's election night, and it's all about electoral college. And it shows how the electoral college can be rigged. Well, no, that wasn't really the word I wanted to use. It shows how a very few number of states are the ones who may be the ones who are going to deliver the electoral college. And then lastly, oh my God, is anything cuter than this? A baby bear up at the Katmai Peninsula at the bear camp? Now, by the way, there are 4 bear cams to be able to watch. There's no fat shaming at the Katmai Peninsula up at the national park. These bears are getting ready for winter, and it's essential that they put fat on in order to be able to finish. Well, by the way, just like at an NFL playoff, or by the way, voting for a candidate, this is a voting exercise. And there are going to be fantastic candidates, and you will be able to be watching them to see who are going to vote for. And we are going to use Dennis Magdishian's fantastic voting machine, and people will be able to view the bears, and they will be able to learn about how to vote, and we will have our own voting activity. Any questions? Oh my God, you have got to look at explore.com to the bear cams. By the way, these babies are so dang cute. Mom, by the way, you will also notice that bear families hang out together. By the way, all three generations of the bear family will hang out. Mom, her babies, and also the aunts and uncles still stay. So this is a family affair out at the Katmai, and you are going to have to watch. Any questions? Be there.
Thank you, Tracy, and thank you everyone who signed up, and don't miss out. So there's still plenty of opportunities. Teresa Torres is going to talk to us about high school table.
With great trepidation, I follow Tracy, but I do a lot. Okay, high school lane is happening in October, from October 14th to 23rd, I think. We had a wonderful opportunity. For years, we've been trying to get into the high schools, and suddenly Mary Schick and I got an invitation for the college and career days at every single high school in Clark County. And clap for yourselves, because all my tables are filled. So, which is good, because I'm going to Spain next week, so I don't want to think about it. But I'll be back October 1st, and then I'll be double checking with everybody. So all of that is good. Oh, before I talk about one more thing, I also want to brag about Speak Up School, which we just did Thursday night. Cynthia Gardner is at the Peace and Justice Fair, but she led us through Speak Up School, an abbreviated version. We got permission from Alice McCaffrey. We had more signups, but 8 people actually showed up. And Voki and Alan and Tracy, who just disappeared, and Cynthia were like the moderators, and we trained 8 people. And I will tell you, in the group that I was in, the young woman was there because she had tried to talk to her PTA about banning peanuts in the school, and they were rather blasé about it. And she said when she talked to them, she cried because this is a life-threatening issue for her child. And so we worked with her, and man, at the end, she was going to convince them there will be no peanuts at that school. So we are excited because we got a really good response from these people, and I think we'll be doing more of them. So the last thing is, I had on my phone, which just went out on me. Also, my phone refuses to do facial recognition, so I'm always hurt by that. So one last tabling event, I just got this yesterday, and it's from the Portland League of Women Voters. They've been working with a group. Oops. I should have just printed it out. There. Bear with me. I know we're running out of time. Just a second. It's September 28th, and they've been working with a group called Links. It's Black women, and I'm not sure anything about it, except that, first of all, I'll be gone, so I'm not going to sign up for it. It's from 7:30 to 10 at Salmon Creek. No, it's very confusing to me. So I actually went back to them and said, could you please just send me another email? Because there were so many threads in this email. Here we go. So the email says, can the Clark County Voter Services Group provide 1 or 2 volunteers to a voter registration opportunity on Saturday, September 28th from 7:30 a.m. Is there even such a time? To 10 at the Salmon Creek Trailhead in Philida with the Links, a Black professional women's group with which LWV-PDX has worked in the past. So they asked us, anybody's interested, like I said, I just got this yesterday. Please call me, email me. Otherwise, I may be calling you. Okay? All right, I'm done.
All right, so yet another opportunity on accomplishing our mission of empowering voters. So next we have Mary Austin on WSU.
Yeah, so we have two colleges in Clark County, both WSUV and Clark College. But first, I wanted to call your attention to this banner, which the communications team put together and up higher, okay, with specifically young voters in mind. Last spring term, we were able to collaborate with a strategic communications class at WSUV, and they suggested a superpower theme, hence this superhero female at the bottom of this banner. And this is intended for really all voter registration events, but specifically, I think it'll be really good for use at both the colleges and perhaps also at the high schools. Wow, I'm really not doing well with this microphone.
Step forward.
Okay, I'm getting feedback. Okay, great. So there's a number of events coming up, but the one that's happening very soon is on Tuesday, National Voter Registration Day at WSUV. And that's running from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. And this is a really fun event because we also have student volunteers that we will be working with. And so it's a lot of interaction with students, a lot of energy. We're in the foyer of the library where students are not only going in and out of the library, but there's classrooms upstairs and they're going up and down the stairs and easy to catch them between classes. And I have several volunteers, but I definitely need another volunteer for the 9 to 11 spot and the 1 to 3 spots. So if you're able to help out, let me know. That'd be great. And there are many other events, but they're pretty much all in October. So, all right.
Thank you, thank you. And Sally Hay asked for some time on website activities. Or maybe Nancy asked for Sally to have some time on website. You know, I just follow the list here.
That's all Brenda.
Okay, hi, I'm Brenda. I am the webmaster. I am trying to keep the website updated anytime something new comes out. Today and tomorrow, we will still have the survey available online. Tomorrow is the last day if you want to do it online. You can also find the superhero voting on the homepage now. There are updated resources to check out on the members only side. I've got a note on the public to remind you to log in because there's more stuff for members that the public cannot see. So please check out the website and send us comment, something else you want to see.
Excellent, thank you, thank you. And also on the website, Nancy asked me to remind everyone to log their volunteer hours. We certainly have seen and heard about a lot of activities and dedication. So, you know, that helps us demonstrate our commitment and other statistical benefits. So just a reminder to do that. And now, in a moment, the moment you've all been waiting for is the breakout groups. So Jane Johnson's going to lead that, and while she gets up here, why don't you stand and stretch and give a smile to your neighbor.
After sitting and listening for a while, it feels good to get up and stretch, and I'll give you a few minutes to do that. You're welcome.
7th inning stretch.
Okay, folks, don't take this as an opportunity to leave. All right, why don't we go ahead and get started? Feel free to continue stretching while I talk. What we'd like to do today is give you What we'd like to do today is give you an opportunity to talk with us and give us your best ideas and suggestions. Two full tasks. First, we'd like to hear from you about issues for our candidates forums. We'll be starting. You're welcome, Melanie. We'll be starting our question writing on Monday. So everything that we can hear from you today will be considered. It will help us so much as we start to prepare our questions. Keep in mind that we'll be going to look at state races. We've got 2 county council races, and we've got a public utility district race. So we could really use your help in issues that you hear from your neighbors, that you've read in the paper, that you personally are concerned about. And so please jot those down for us. That would be oh so helpful. The second part of your task is to think about ways that the league can get out the vote. We've talked about the website and some of the things that are on there. We have our candidate forums. So we do have our usual kinds of methods of getting out the vote, voter education. But there are a lot of other things that we'd like to consider. So please give us your ideas. Time is short. We've got about 6 weeks to go ahead and start getting that information out there. One of the things that we did a few years ago that I thought was really successful was we had a number of pop-up events. And those pop-up events were from Starbucks to Mighty Bowl. So things along those lines, particularly if you know of locations in certain areas of the county that it might be helpful to do that. Okay, let's take about 15 minutes to do that. I've got paper and pens here, so I will be bringing those around. And if each table could just have somebody serve as a scribe, that would be really helpful. If you have any questions before we get started, if you would like to join another table because you feel like there's power in numbers, then feel free to do that as well. Okay, let's roll.
Stop recording because we had so many things going on here. I mean, just talk, but it's not part of the program.